Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for a brand new show. We are watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners because it swept the last poll and I'm excited to see it. I mean, listen, I've been on kind of a trigger kick for the last couple of weeks in a couple of different ways, and so I am far beyond excited to see a new offering from ya boy Imaishi. I think Imaishi's one of the best storytellers in the business right now, and I like the studio, and I like what they put out. I've liked Gainax's work since the very beginning. They're some of the fundamentals of how I view the world. Truly, like, Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann changed my life in meaningful and actively, applicable ways, and continue to do so as I continue to understand them better by applying the principles that they contain and seeing what happens and refining them and seeing what works, and then going back to the shows and determining whether I had the principles right in the first place. And often I don't, because they seem to be near inexhaustible texts of interesting work. But we're not watching a Trigger show, we're watching a Trigger CDPR collaboration. Imaishi is somebody that I know for his bombastic, creative, original anime. Intellectual property that is essentially his own and that he can do anything with. A boundless free creativity that soars beyond to tell really interesting stories. So one of the core reasons that I am fascinated by this show is simply that it's popular and cool and by a studio that I like. And also because it's cyberpunky and I fucking like that shit. But it's also because I'm really interested in what will happen when Imaishi and his studio choose willingly to constrain themselves to the boundaries of somebody else's intellectual property. And what will result out of it, I think, will be as good, if not maybe more interesting, than Imaishi's own unbounded creative shows, or Trigger's own. To say that an Imaishi show is an Imaishi show is ridiculous, because the way Trigger works is more collaborative than that, as should be with any large-scale creative endeavor. Some level of collaborative decency should be present. There are functional and structural reasons why Kyoto Animation and Trigger produce consistently some of the best works of animation in existence, and I think they have to do with the way that they treat their creatives, and I think that's really important to take note of. But on a more specific and relevant note, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm so excited to watch this show. I really am. I already said a bit of my piece about what I think going into the show in the sort of announcement video, the poll announcement video. In that video, I went through the photos, the promo art, the posters, as well as the synopsis on Mal. Not the summary, the synopsis, which gave me a vague thing that was like, there's a boy in a cyber world, and it's cybery. That's basically what I remember from it. So all the people are worried, like, oh man, you spoiled yourself on the show by reading the synopsis. It's like, no, I really didn't. There's a boy who is cybery, and he gains some kind of power in a cybery world that's oppressive. It's like, duh. Yeah, obviously. Something like that. But I'm really fascinated to see this sort of conflict play out between creativity and boundaries. And that, I think, is going to be... This is just an assumption, because I haven't seen the show yet, right? I really haven't seen the show. My guess is that the central tension of this show is the central tension between creativity and structural boundaries. Because it is the seed from whence the show is born. It is the seed of cyberpunk as a whole. In specific, cyberpunk is a world where technology has granted the individual near limitless creativity and self-modification capability, but is restrained by oppressive social structures and authoritarian capitalist or non-capitalist, however they view it in a cyberpunk dystopian future, or utopian. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as utopia. They don't exist. All structures have chaos and corruption, and entropy are subject to entropy, so it just doesn't exist. But a cyberpunk topia, let's say, whether it's dis or you is up to you, but a cybertopia is a system of great individual freedom locked in by large-scale, overarching, seemingly structurally impossible to move boundaries. And that's exactly what's going on with Trigger and CDPR, right? Trigger is this boundless, individualist show-making thing. All of their shows are about the power of the individual to unify a group and fight against systems. All of them. That's what Kill la Kill is, right? Ryuko has the sword, and she goes and she fights against the system, and then she finds out that the system is bigger than she thinks. And Simon has the drill, and he goes and he fights against the system, and he finds out that the system is bigger than he thinks, and then he fights out against the restraints upon that, and explodes outward into galactic euphoria or something via doing so. which is pretty cool and pretty correct. It's pretty fucking true. Turn little bit by it. Okay, right. But that's Trigger. They're the boundless creative power of the individual soul. And they chose, in this circumstance, to suborn their creative freedom in order to collaborate with another grand creative endeavor, CD Projekt Red, who, whether you think of video game companies as art or not, is an art producer that has produced pieces of art that have materially altered the lives of many, many hundreds of millions of people via games like The Witcher and Cyberpunk. And Trigger decided to suborn their creative impulse to this overarching body that owns the IP that they're working in. And I don't think they did it for greed. I don't think they just did it for the contract or for the money. I think they did it because they knew that it would be cool. I think Imaishi did it because he knew that he needed to put himself under some restrictions. And I think that I presume, I'm assuming all of this, and I could be wrong about all of it. And if you got interviews that show me that I'm wrong about any of it, or right, or whatever, and you want to translate them from Japanese, send them to me. I'd be fascinated to know anything about anything, because I don't know anything about anything. I'm just assuming. But I think that there's method to that madness, and I'm excited to see what the result is going to be, because I think it'll come to some conclusions about that space and how the individual should act in relation to the authority that is with and around them, and like in relation to the many structured fractal structures around them and all the people, and how should the individual act when they get their hands on a little bit of power. You know, an individual in a system that feels corrupt, how should you act when you get your hands on a little bit of the ability to create change? And I think that's what our boy is going to find out. I think he's going to get his hands on something special, and it's going to cause all sorts of chaos and problems, and also growth and journey and connection between him and maybe some of the cool people around him. But it's also going to cause enemies and conflict and all these other things, because that's what happens when you stand up. That's what happens when you start fighting for something, is people are ready to fight back to some extent. But you'll also make deep and lasting allies and powerful connections. And that's part of the Trigger story. So I can't wait to see these two things collide. Now, some background. I've never played the Cyberpunk game, and I've never played the Cyberpunk TTRPG. I just haven't. I've got a lot of experience with specific TTRPGs, but that doesn't mean that I've got a lot of experience with TTRPGs at all. So maybe I'll end up buying a Cyberpunk book at some point and finding out what's going on with that RPG. Might be useful. Maybe I won't, and I'll just view it as a cool gaze or a cool window into another piece of media and another world that plenty of people inhabit psychologically or in their minds, right? And good. But I'd love to see what this depiction and image of the future is, and I'd love to see what the hell Trigger does with the budgetary possibilities of collaborating with a large company like CDPR, and the freedom afforded by constraints. Let's go ahead and we're watching it in dub. At least the first episode. I'm willing to change that, but for now the dub seems like the best option. Sorry, sub lovers. I'm sorry. This is the best option for me at the moment. We're going to go with it. Okay. No argument beyond that. This is the choice that I want to make right now. I'm willing to change it. Cool. Let's watch CPER. Please don't call it CP. It feels weird to me. You can if you want to. I won't censor you, but come on. Please call it CPER or Edgerunners or Cyberpunk or something like that, so that I know what you're talking about, and you're not talking about that other thing that's got that acronym. Thank you. Ugh. Okay, let's watch it. What a horrible note. Let's watch it. Cyberpunk Edgerunners, episode 1. Oh, I should do the thing. There will be 2 versions of this video. You can find a picture-in-picture version, which will have the video up here as well as my face. It'll be in the description. But it won't have any discussion on it, and that's what you should be here for, not the watching of the thing, because you can go and watch the thing on your own. You can go and watch the thing and watch it with me on your own, whatever. But come back to the YouTube video for the discussion, because that's where the meat's going to be, man. That's where the juicy stuff is. Come back for the discussion. It'll be on the YouTube version. The YouTube version will be a timer, and there will be a beep beep timer at the beginning, and it'll go boop 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 beep, red yellow yellow green on the green light, and the beep is the exact frame that I've synced up in post where the video starts playing for me. And so if you hit your spacebar or your play button at that exact moment, it'll be pretty darn close to being synced up perfectly, and that works okay for all of us. Okay, cool. And then I don't have to put the video into YouTube and deal with copyright, which is really important. Cool. If you like this content or the way that I approach media or just talking about this stuff, please consider supporting me on Patreon. You get very little for it. And that's the point. You get access to my Discord so that we can communicate more effectively, and you get early access to most of my content. You get it a week early, but you don't get anything special, really. You get a different color on the Discord, and you get access to the content a little bit earlier. Nothing that I make is behind a paywall, unless it like has to be because I can't post it on YouTube, but I don't put things behind a paywall for you. This shit is free because I think it has value, and I think giving things of value away is more cool and more right than keeping them behind a wall and being jealous with knowledge or truth or the process of discovering that knowledge and truth. It's like, I want to build a community. I'm not going to do that if I sit here mean mugging you. I'm only going to do it if I go up and smile and I say hi, right? And so that's the offer, right? This stuff is free. Enjoy it at your leisure. But if you have a few bucks to send me, those few bucks are the reason that I can eat. And if I am no longer able to eat, I won't be able to produce more content. And so I'd really appreciate the ability to continue eating, and eating well, and producing as good content as I possibly can. In exchange for that seems to be fair to me and fair to now over 1,000 people. We've hit over 1,000 people on Patreon. We're over $4,000 a month on Patreon, which is inconceivable to me. It's humbling. It's humbling to me, and it's inconceivable, and I'm beyond grateful. And I knew that it could work, but man, I'm shocked that it really works. It's almost like there's something about being honest and trying not to exploit people that people value. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to keep trying to do. And if you value it, please support it, and put your money where your mouth is, and put your mouth where your money is, because your ability to be on the Patreon, that is one thing that you get, is that you get to comment on the videos before anybody else. And that means that the likelihood that I'll read your comment and discuss it back to you goes up. It's not perfect, but it goes up. And that means that maybe we'll get like more interaction over the things that you find specifically important about the media. And that would be sick. And then you can help me, right? It stops being a one-way street, and we can help each other, and it's awesome. And that, I think, is not only worth paying for, but it's worth me putting a barrier of payment for. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if there's no investment into the system, then you have no reason to care what you write or care how you speak within the system. But if it costs you something to get into the dialogue, into the debate, into the discussion, then you might treat the discussion with a little bit of the respect that I think it deserves, even if it's $1, right? Because $1 gets you into the Discord, and via the Discord you can at me, like, you can send me shit. I don't care. It's perfect. So come, please, $1, and join the community. And we'll talk about shows like this one and other ones, and you'll get to vote and choose which shows will happen in the future, and it'll be great. Let's watch Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Episode 1. Nothing to it but to do it. Straight into it. Beep beep timer. Well, that's good looking. Oh, that's Ghost in the Shell. I mean, in terms of rain from above, Neo Tokyo City, it's the same idea. So we're evoking similarity. Okay, and now we flip it, so we're looking up on everything. That's Militech. What is that? Okay, Chainlink becomes hypercrosses, becomes gone. Whoa. Are those burbling or are they glitching? What's going on? Petrochem. Cyber Eyes. Wow. Well, this is a violent world. The fuck, dude? Gorgeous. Already our color scheme is insane. Are we transitioning? No, he sees all. What the fuck? So this is power level? Yeah, we're establishing. Cyber Psycho? Hold on, this is the dub title, right? Whoa! Okay. Full Iron Giant style, Verkadian Protector Droid style monster. Whoa! God, all these angles are so Amaishi. Blood splatters. Jesus. Oh. So that's the thing, huh? What? That's some bullshit, dog. That's some straight up, like, JoJo's bullshit. Full reload? Fuck you. Huh. What got him? Yeah, they zapped him. So does augmenting yourself cause psychosis? Big triangle. Zappity boom. Oh, here's your boy. Is he in VR? Is he fucking somebody in VR? Edgerunner who scrolled it. Sweden Premium. He was experiencing it. Okay, so he's putting himself into another mind. That's fundamental. That's his ability, isn't it? Because wow. That was like me style awful. Whoa. He's got a cross too. Interesting. I didn't see that it was a crucifix in the imagery. This is a great frame. Bubble bubble. Ha! Can't even wash your laundry. Ah. Oh, whoa. Oh, that's his mom. Well, that was wrong. Okay, so we got an overworked mother. And everything costs things. Reeve? Uh-huh. So he's yeah. Got it. He's an echo of my college roommate. Doing everything to sacrifice himself for his parent, who he loves. Like a fucking badass. Ah. Nova? So everyone's got the eyes. Did she have it? Did she have the implant? Is she stealing it to sell it for a better life? Because she was there. Okay, we'll have to go back and check that. Oh, this is rad. His flippy hair is dope. Let me get these recycling boxes that aren't getting recycled. So many layers. Wow, on the dead street, there were babies over there. Wow, just fucking, yeah. Whoa. A perfect viewpoint on modern society. Expanded outward, extrapolated. Framed. Whoa. We're going to space, but we're stuck here. Perfect. Oh, I missed it. Offset crosses. What are those? Closed eyes in the street. Strong arms. Real water. Something city to police department. Right by the bloodbath. But he's been there, right? He experienced it from his side. Whoa, what is that? A holographic fish? What was that jingle in his back of his head? Oh, that's the girl. Whoa. Oh, those pants. That's like Fifth Element style. Okay. Yeah, you catch a glimpse of that, you're like, what the fuck? Oh well. The world is mine. Cool shot. Clip, 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 clip. Structure. Huh. Puh. No. Okay. Ugh. Everyone else has different things. And to learn to learn. Yeah, he's got old tech. Doing his own. Why does he double click? Gotta be, gotta be. Counting on it. Is he gonna get him out? Oh, he's glitching. Wait, it manifested into reality. What the fuck was that? Gold. Gendo. Uh-huh. Illegally. Nah, she's too proud. Put him somewhere else. This is the best school. Wow, great transition. Nah, it's your damn fault. Mm-hmm. Cutting corners, man. And he's gonna cut corners next, right? And it's gonna cause a big problem. I like that we stay away from her face because he's not looking at her. Maybe I shouldn't go to school. Maybe I should help you, but she wants a better future for him. True Blue Corpo? So it's class-based instead of race-based. Never be a suit, okay. A cog. Yeah, a platinum cog. Oh, moms! And everything he does for you, and you don't see it in each other. He's looking, but he's not seeing. He doesn't see it. Or he didn't. And he softens. Yeah. But he doesn't know how to fix it. Okay, what's gonna go wrong? We're hitting the midpoint. Doctor, lawyer. She's looking away from the road. What the fuck is that? We're in the midst of a gang fight. Your mom. Is that blood? Okay. And we're out. That's mom. He's barely alive. Cybertech. Cybertech. It's the answer. You're in a situation that you cannot control. Trauma force? They're not actually going to help. You don't have insurance. Oh my god, Trauma Team is corporate. You need insurance. And his cross is there. Fuck indeed. Okay, where are we? Okay, we meet Doc. Insurance for everything. God, it's corporo fucked. Privatized and corporo fucked. What is zip those eddies? Fuck. It's a hoops chip. Is hoops like basketball? I don't know. Borgs. Fuck. Ha! The soundtrack is amazing. She stole the thing. So now he's taking over some of the issues, and he's gonna find something. A little bit of power. You're gonna come. No, it's like Ryuko. You're gonna become tethered to it. Yeah, no chance, man. You can get more out of wearing it than selling it. Put on the Goku uniform. Let's go. All right. Don't know what a gonk is, except a gonk droid. It's like super rad. Oh, and that's the next necklace. So everything goes on exactly the same. Cool. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And he hasn't chosen to put it on yet, right? Does he have it with him? Did he see the girl? Ah. Has he put it on yet? Drop out. You're not welcome here. Fuck you. Nice Ava angles. Corner to corner, corner to corner, angle 45, yeah. Oh. Sick. The attitude? You don't fit. You're a defect. I love the color. That's great. Mm-hmm. He's gonna call her a whore. He's gonna call her a whore. Do it. Do it, bro. Do it. Go for it, man. Come at me. Touched me. You touched him. Oh, he's pushing through. Fucking idiot. Okay, and he's got all this Borgification. Oh! Yeah, he is more ogged than you. Not close. Oh, condescension. Yeah, he's... But it's not his. I didn't realize I was watching JoJo's. That's amazing, though. Anybody can click in martial artist. These two mooks. Well, we can manage that. Yeah, just leave, bro. Just leave, bro. Okay, so devastating. Angles, angles, all coming down. You're at the bottom of the staircase, and you're stuck in the corner. Is she worse? On the discount package. Is she dead? Greetings, valued customer. Fucking shit dicks. Huh? Not even a funeral for his beloved mother. Yup. Fucking horrifying. The weight of the world. You feel powerless and empty, and everything is unfucking fair. So we start moving left. We're moving backward, backward, backward. Great, 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 great. Huh. Oh, okay. I thought they'd put in a better one. So he's gonna be on the way there and then something will happen? He knows you're desperate. Exploitation. Perfect. Locked in this frame. Who is Katsuo? Oh, it's the guy we were talking to first. Cunt. Sorry for using that word. Oh man, I cannot wait for him to get some just desserts. Put it on, put it on, put it on. Burst, 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 burst. Push through that pain. Let's go. All you have to do is sacrifice everything that you are. No, he's not there yet. He goes to pleasure. No. Okay, he goes to Doc. He doesn't want it taken off his hands. Just kidding. Yes! Look at that shit! Oh my god! Is that it? Are we gonna end there? Are we just ending with the choice? We are. I think we are. Masahiko Yoshiki-usa, Yoshiki-usa, Yoshinari. Alright, yeah, there's the people. I mean, this is a straightforward episode, right? There's a lot here. I'll be able to unpack this better later, some other time. I wonder, I guess they're going to do a full credit roll. I've got 3 minutes showing as left, so. Okay, what's next? Maybe nothing. Oh, it's going to be all the credits for the dubbing. Okay, we'll stop there. Ba-bam. Wada bing, wada bang, wada pow. Let me just check. Yep, nothing there. Man, I just want to go back. Okay, so I'll do some just talking about some stuff, but this. Ugh. This one, this is Ryuko with the sword out and the microphone, right? It's the same image. And he's a duality of red and light, right? He's a duality bound by anger down the center, directed by the angle of his nose, pointing at himself with his thumb. I want this in me. And that's it. We had to push him to the limit. And man, we pushed him far. We did a good job of setting that up, too. How much pressure can a person take? How much of the world being unfair do you take before you snap and do something? A lot. Too much, maybe. Right? Because if he had snapped and done something before, maybe his mom wouldn't be dead. But you can't think about it like that. Now that it's happened, now he's on a road. He's already wearing the coat. I wonder if that's his mom's coat. I don't know for sure. I think it is. Hold on, let me check and make sure. I think that makes sense. Yeah, it is. So that's her trauma team coat. So he wears the coat of a protector, a savior, right? The people who are supposed to be medical professionals, right? And it's his mom's specifically, and she embodies this over-caring sacrificial spirit, right? Because she destroys herself for him. The way many parents destroy themselves for their children. And reasonably so. They hope for a better life for their kids. They hope that they can build one through their own sacrifice so their kid doesn't have to. And there's not much that's more beautiful than that. But it's misaligned because she hurts him by hurting herself. And he is hurt by it. And he tries to avoid putting responsibilities on her, right? And tries to cut corners to show her, to give her a little bit of a reprieve. Because when you do that to your child, the child is aware of your pain. You can't hide it from them. They're aware of it. And it affects them. And they learn that the world is one where suffering is normal. and like real over the top suffering. And so they're more willing to suffer on their own to help you. And that, in a way, is beautiful, and that's the way that it should be, but it's also perverted because it goes way too far, and that is a symptom of the overall system of exploitation that fractally throughout this city is on every level. You've got the people at the very top exploiting everyone, and then you got the people with just the littlest bit of power exploiting anyone they can, right? Like the guy who was trying to buy his, or he was trying to sell the thing to, who's just knocking down the price, trying to get that wetware for almost for free because he knows that the kid who's trying to sell it to him is desperate, right? Not paying him a fair price for it because fairness is valued, which is the thing that should be the way that it is, right? There should be an intrinsic and inherent value in being fair, but there isn't. And that's the nature and the core flaw with our current system of economics. The system isn't wrong because it's capitalist, it's wrong because it's corruptly capitalist and unfair. A truly, like, quality regulated system is in balance, where every exchange is happening via some principle, some great principle of equivalent exchange, you might say, in an alchemical term. And that is not the case in this world. And that's an echo. It's taken to an extreme in this world, but that's an echo of the way that it is in our real world. And because we all feel it, right? We all feel like the system is not fair. Like we're being exploited. Like the people who have more are doing exploiting. And that's a great way to lean into resentment and jealousy and hatred. And that's a reasonable thing to have for some of those people, the people who are exploiting. But maybe we need to fix something about the system. Maybe we could fix something about the system. And maybe doing so would fix some of these individual portions of exploitation. Maybe if exploitation were explicitly disallowed and actually sought to be fixed, then the system could work in a way that people actively benefit from the amount of work that they put in. You know, a society that values its trauma surgeons and trauma teams and trauma nurses pays them well enough for them to have a life. And if nurses and doctors are paid well enough to have a life, more people will want to become nurses and doctors. And the nurses and doctors who put in their effort and lives to save other people's will continue doing so. But at the base of this system that we see is the idea that humans don't matter. And that's the problem with transhumanism, is that once you become Borgified, meat space ceases to matter. It's something that happens in our real world all the time. Once you become attuned to technology, the amount of time you spend living in the real world and taking care of your real physical self, the part of you that is necessary to do all the fun exploratory things in the games that we play and the videos that we watch and the crazy communication and information sharing that we have on the internet, this amazing shared dream that we have of the internet. You know, I was thinking about this. It's like, I think because I can think the thoughts of thousands of other people and read through like 100 comments in an hour, I think more thoughts in a week than my grandfather would have thought in years. Now, he would have been spending all his time thinking, but like, he would have been spending more of his time doing, and when you're doing, you're not thinking, okay? And I get to spend all of my time thinking if I want to. But if I spend all my time thinking, I spend no time doing, and my body falls apart, my ability to think goes away. So you can't just focus on the transcendence, on the cyborgification, on the technology. You have to focus on the people, on the bottom, on the foundation. Because our society, pyramidal though it is founded on way more little individuals putting in a lot of work and getting way too little benefit. And the society is not founded on the top of the pillar. But the people at the top of the pillar think it is, and they're wrong. And they're wrong. And they need to realize that they're wrong, or it's going to become bloody. Because when the people at the bottom get to a point where there's no other choice but to do like what David did, where he gets pressured and pressured and pressured and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed down, and all this stuff and all this violence and all this torture is on top of his fucking back, and he has to shift into something else because it's untenable, and he's going to squeeze out the sides, and he's going to try to manifest some change. And that's good. We need that. We need the youth, the people who feel like the system ain't working to manifest some change. But the way that most people in our current day and age manifest that change seems to be kill and destroy everything around you. Either, it takes two forms that I see, and I'm going to be really explicit and pretty dark here. It takes two forms that I see. It takes destructive iconoclasm, which is go and find all systems are inherently corrupt, is what that says. All ways of being are inherently immoral and wrong, and they must be destroyed, regardless of what value they may produce. For example, our government system is corrupt. True. The government should be abolished. False. Without a government, we devolve into chaos. The police force is deeply corrupt, and the laws that govern them are not good enough. All cops... true. All cops are bad as a principle. The principle of cops is bad. False. The expression of authority through force is necessary for the safety of a people. If it were not so, there would be functional civilizations that have no police, and there aren't. And so it's necessary. So one way that people go when they're crushed by society like this is into destructive iconoclasm. Tear down everything, and we'll have to build it anew. We don't know what we're building. As long as we tear down what's there, that will lead to a better future. Is wrong. Every time that there is a revolution, it leads to violence, destruction, chaos, and a dictator. And authoritarianism, because the people who destroy the system think that they can go and put themselves at the top of the pyramid and rebuild a pyramid that will be better for the people at the bottom. And that ain't it, chief. You start at the bottom, always. And then you start at all levels simultaneously by law, by rule and principle. Not by destructive death and action. And that's kind of like what we see here. This guy goes on a death rampage. Now, I don't know why he goes on a death rampage. They said it was like cyber psychosis, so maybe putting too much cyber stuff into your body just literally makes you crazy. Reasonable. Super cool. Great scene, very visual, but this is what happens when you fight the system. All the police come, and regardless of how powerful you are, this guy is demonstrated to be extremely powerful to us, right? Very sturdy, very strong, but he starts shooting people in the middle of the street. He gets some death caused, for sure, but then he gets dead. And that's what happens when you go against the system full stop, right? And it's similar to the negative and more negative way that people go when they're crushed by a society that they think they can't change, that they think cannot change, that they think is destructive and wrong and evil, and that they think invalidates them as human beings. And the way that they go is they buy a gun and they start shooting people. Because they don't think that the world can change, and so they go to the nuclear extreme. The world cannot be changed, and therefore it must be destroyed. There's no hope for a better future, and therefore there is only hope for a worse one. And I'm going to take you and me there as fast as I can, and then I'm going to eliminate myself from the equation. You wonder why people shoot up locations? Sometimes it's hate. Those are a different thing. Mostly it's self-hate and expanded out human hate, anti-humanism. Being is not good, they say. And let's be honest, if you're in David Martinez's situation, in this moment right here, being is not fucking good. Your mother is dead, killed unfairly. Her whole life before that was a life of torture and unfairness just to give you a chance, and you don't even get the chance. Everything she worked toward didn't work. She died, it feels for nothing. What an unfair world. And we get this sequence, this speech from Katsuo, where he talks about karma. How fucking dare he? Because everything that he sees validates his worldview. How fucking dare he? Because we know the truth. We know the truth that his mother is the most sacrificing, most valid person. And this guy insinuates a lot that she prostituted herself to get David into this school. And maybe she did. What an incredible sacrifice that woman might have made for her son's future. That's how I'd view it. Oh, so shameful. Fuck you. Fuck you. We know, and David knows, that his mother is a saint and that she has been martyred because of it. That she has been killed because of her goodness. And that karma is flawed and wrong. Because if karma existed, then this guy would have been hit by a car, not your fucking mom. And a dumbass group of gang members wouldn't have just without a care shot through your vehicle. Ah, it's infuriating. And you know what that means? It means it's good goddamn storytelling. Nah. Beyond good storytelling, it's good fucking art. The style and form of the color patterns and shadows and light throughout this episode are bonkers. They get to me, oh god, fucking pink fuck dolls. I keep having to skip those. That red, green, blue, black, gray, yellow, dink, 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 dink. I can not even articulate the way that this thing is balanced across angles. It's so dynamic. Like, okay, this is a third line straight down the middle, right? The point of his eye is at a third line straight down here. These are near a third line, or like the bridge of his nose is right near a third line. And I'll bet that if you Fibonacci spiral in here, it spirals right down into the center of his forehead, right there. And I'll bet if you Fibonacci spiral the other way, it centers like right down into this area of red over here. The framing of this image is spectacular. The framing of this image is spectacular. This framing is spectacular. His head is up above and into the city, but there's a wall between him and it's sickly green out there, and his feet are stuck inside here. Perfect. Perfect. The location design and the general feel of everything and environment design is excellent. The way that all the structures and streets and things look. All the floating stuff is all, of course, based off of the Cyberpunk game, and they've made the location come to life as far as I'm concerned. I don't know the location very well, but it works. There's some stuff in the structures of these symbols that are intriguing to me, but we'll move into those when we see those. Those sorts of symbols, the side things, are, well, David Martinez wears a cross. Imaishi likes crosses. He's aware that regardless of their religious symbolism, the idea of two intersecting things, again in a golden ratio sort of angle, the idea of two intersecting things is transcendent. It's way more important than the Christian idea of the cross, of sacrifice. But Imaishi also knows about the Christian idea of the cross and sacrifice. Unlike the history of Evangelion, where crosses were put into Evangelion because they kind of looked cool and seemed mystical, like, Anno didn't really know what he was doing with those. I don't think that's true here. I think that Imaishi knows what they mean. And there's a reason that our now self-sacrificing protagonist wears a cross. And we'll see if he exchanges that self-sacrificing cross for the necklace that we saw in the posters and the one that came with the cyberspine thing. If he switches it out and says, this is no longer my identity, this is, that would be really interesting. And we'll see, maybe by the end there will be some combination they'll put both on. That would be really interesting. That would be a very JoJo's-y idea of combining of things, and a very Imaishi idea of combining things, and a very Cross-y idea of combining of things. So these lines in here with the offsets, they're like, the world is offset from where it should be. Everything should line up in harmony and unison and be structured properly, and everything's not. Now, maybe I'm going way too far into just a motif in the thing, but motifs are motifs for a reason, sometimes even without the knowledge or conscious awareness of their creators. And that's rad. That's rad. Well, I mean, think about it in this way. Let me just make it clear. I'm not trying to make a death of the author type of argument, although I like to view things both in a author is dead and author is alive sort of way, Schrödinger's-y, through both, and try to get a bit better picture of the work, both through what the author was trying to express and what I think it actually expressed. Usually I want my own interpretation before I get the author's interpretation, but, well, let's think about it this way. When you get into a fight with somebody, it's very often, why did you do that? Why did you do that thing that I didn't want you to do? And you come up with a reason for it, but you didn't really have a reason for it when you did it. You just sort of did it, and you can come up with a reason in reverse, but it never really feels like it's the real reason, because you don't really understand the real reasons that you do most of the things that you do. Neither do I. This isn't a bad thing about you. This is a human element, right? And so when an artist creates a great work of art, do you think they really understand what they're doing? Or do you think that they are inspired by this vision of a thing that they must put out there, and it's true in an inarticulate sense that they couldn't articulate if they tried? And you'll see great artists will spend their entire life trying to articulate an idea. Like Picasso tried to articulate the idea over and over that people are multiple people. That looking at a person from one perspective doesn't capture the person, both physically in their motion, right? You look at a person this way and you look at a person this way, and that's a different object. But also functionally, like every person is one person when they're enraged, and one person when they're joyful, and one person when they're sad, and one person when they're anxious, and like a billion different people. And he tried to represent that in his self-portraits and his portraits and his imagery. And he tried to represent it about everything else. Like, that's the cubist archetype, is like, well, this cup is a cup, but it's also a circle from up here, and it's a cylinder from over here, and it's like a weird shape with a hole in it from here, and you can't even tell that exists from this side. You don't know anything about this cup. Not a damn thing. You can't tell me what's on the bottom of this cup. You've never seen it. Now you have. The fuck is that? So the inarticulate truth that's within the thing might be more important than the articulated truth that the artist tries to present. And that's the whole idea of the religious symbolism that's in here. Maybe they know what they think it means. Maybe they don't. Regardless, it will mean something, and part of its meaning is only found in the process of interpretation and viewing the thing. Because it means nothing. It means everything. It's in quantum uncertainty until one person looks at it, matches it up to their internal structures of the world and paradigms, and clicks it into a configuration that's like, well, that means this, and I should think about it this way. But I don't even know where I'm going with that, but it's rad. Fuck, man, they were so good at doing that cremation sequence and just making it, he doesn't process, right? It's just shock and like a stunned gut punch. The best processing that we get is him just wandering around a city, an uncaring city, uncared for. Bonkers. Okay, we're gonna skim top to bottom. Let's do that. We'll talk through and then we'll finish. Because we've got a lot of good stuff out, and, the episode is chock full of interesting things, but I'll grapple with those and pull out more pieces as we go, and I'll let you in the discussions come and tell me what you think was important in this episode if I've missed it, and then I can grow my entire understanding of the episode and say it back to you, and we can grow our entire understanding of the whole damn episode and the whole show together. Rad. Okay. Big, massive, brilliant, beautiful city structure, again, across in the center, very intentionally at an angle, because it's all off-centered, right? That's how I would read it. And it is surrounded by these mega-structure skyscrapers. In the center of town, it feels like this is a central element, like Times Square. The center of town is where this conflict is continuously happening. We go from looking down on the city as though we're at the very top to looking up on the skyscrapers as though we are trash, right? Something like that. There's all this confusing, scintillating light. We only see 2, 3. So there's Petro something, there's Militech, and then there's this symbol, which is the 3 trees or whatever it is, 3 connected dots. That's a really interesting symbol. It's a good symbol, and I'll bet it's perverted in some way, because I assume that this corporation is evil as fuck. But we'll find out. Cool glowing swimming fish. Wasn't sure what these were until, of course, we understood what these were. I love this transition. It's very Escher-y. From the chain link fence, which is a boundary, to the flowing of the fish. Well, first to little tiny cruces, to the flowing of the scales of the fish as they flow by, to whipping past and revealing ya boy for the fight. And your boy is glitching the hell out. I don't know what the fuck is this, like, with his eye things. Is that my camera lens being weird, or his eyes physically going I don't know. I assume that it has to do with the fact that David is actually inside this moment. Stepping into the scene, you can see why they did this scene the way that they did. Red and blue. Hot and cold, with lights up above. You are in the center of it, and you are cast in shadows of red and in shadows of blue, because you are inherently altered and put into a specific position by your surroundings, by your environment. Makes perfect sense to me. And at the center of it, he stands, right? He's perfectly down the middle. And so he's perfectly conflict. He's perfectly right in the middle of conflict. And it's also the conflict between biology and technology, right? And it's also the conflict between individual and system. And it's also the conflict between trying to remain an individual and trying to remain sticking out and fitting in and becoming a conformist cog, which nets you all these benefits, right? Being a cog in the system seems to net you all these benefits. A suit, it makes you able to send your kids to school and stuff, and that's pretty good. But then it makes you part of the corruption too, and that's not so good. So maybe being at the middle of it is where you want to be. And maybe when you watch this scene, we watch this guy and we don't look at him like he's evil, really. We don't frame this as like, the cops are good guys coming to destroy this terrorist. We frame this guy as sort of inevitable. He's just what happens at the center of this conflict. This is what will happen. People will just go crazy and shoot other people in the street for no reason. That seems right. Again, seems like, you know, look at the news. Was there one today? 2 of them today, already. It's 3 p.m. where I'm at. One of them was in St. Louis. 3 people were killed and 7 were injured. One of them was in Chicago. 1 killed, 3 injured. What's the most recent one? Oh, it's at a high school. Great. Bunch of teenagers got dead. Great. Fucking wonderful. Huh? There were 3 yesterday. Total 3 killed, 11 injured. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 the day before that on Saturday. But this guy, he's not an evil school shooter. That's not how we're showing him, at least. He's some symptom of the overall problem, but we don't understand the problem yet. We only start to as we watch the sequence play out. So he begins fighting. We get this whole thing. We get cops talking. I don't really understand this. I don't understand whether we're doing the I'm only 2 weeks from retirement sort of thing. I don't think so. I think we just have this complaining cop who's more worried about his internal, like, family life and the politics of the brigade than he's interested in actually producing any sort of results, right? That's how I'm seeing it, at least. And the cops are just sort of sitting here not doing anything, right? They're just chillaxing. Hey, back it up, buddy. And we get our first look at some cyber eyes, which is awesome. Looking to get shot, which is great. Cops will just shoot you if you stand near their car. Seems accurate to our real world as well. A lot of people feel that way about cops, and it's the reason that the all cops are bad viewpoint is legitimated. Because cops shoot people who don't deserve it, and that's fucked up. And we gotta fix it. But I don't think we fix it by eliminating the police. Because I'd like to have some police. Because I'd like to have somebody to call if somebody that I don't know starts banging on my door with an axe. It'd be really nice to be able to call somebody. Or if I see a school shooter, I'd like to be able to call somebody who can deal with that. Because I can't. I'm 5'5" and I don't own a gun. And I don't want to. What am I gonna do if I saw a public shooter? Run the fuck away. So I'd like to have cops. I'd like to have cops that don't cause more harm than they prevent. This scene with the smoke and stuff is just fucking sick. We get this slow-mo because he's basically in slow-mo. His fucking weird-ass mouth thing. He just stands there and takes the bullets. We demonstrate just how rad this guy is. And he's a cyber psycho. Oh, he's kind of rad, though. He's got... No, he's misaligned. He's causing destruction. But at least he has power. So then there's a question. Is power the only thing that separates you from the people at the top? And if you had power and used it to destroy the system that puts them at the top and keeps you at the bottom, would it make the world a better place? Well, I think we're going to find out because Nathan Martinez has picked up a bit of power. And I think he's going to make some mistakes with it. But I think he's going to find some people, Miss Lady with the hair included, who already know how power should be used to some extent. And I think we'll get a core conflict there. So how does the individual who is crushed by the system integrate with a way of being that makes them powerful enough to stand up against the system without being a destructive monster that kills everyone around them and is then killed themselves and takes themselves completely out of the equation because all life is meaningless and everything is worthless? I don't know. Maybe Cyberpunk Edgerunners will teach me. I'd love to be taught by a show like this, and I can think of no one better to teach me than a Maishi. because he's one of the best teachers that I know. And so are his massive and wonderful staff of incredible animators and writers and colorists. God, the coloration. And compositors and animation directors and go-betweens and runners and gophers and coffee getters and everybody who makes this fucking thing happen. What a beautiful thing. We've got a story that seems to be, to my mind, in my perception, grappling directly with some of the core and fundamental issues of societies, not just my society or your society, but societies, as we move toward a more technologically integrated future, and everybody has a bit more power, because everybody has a bit more power. I can speak to 1,000 people. I can make a Twitter post. I can at the President of the United States if I want to in a Twitter post. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. And I could amass a following, and I could rile them up into hatred, and I could send them in a direction, and I could destroy a person. If I was really hell-bent on it, and I was willing to suborn my principles to do so, I could really, really move toward destroying people. And a lot of people would latch onto it because a lot of people have that chaotic, destructive impulse. In fact, all people have the impulse, but a lot of people are embodying it and choosing to be it right now. It would be a fun experiment, one that I will not take part in because I think it would cause too much suffering and too much evil. It'd be a fun experiment to try to become a hate monger and see just how quickly I can get thousands of people to go and demolish someone else's reputation and career via nothing but lies. I'll bet I could do it in a couple months. Just choose a person who's like not that popular, moderate, and just tear them to shreds for nothing. I bet it wouldn't be that hard. That's power. That's the power that's in your pocket. You have that power with your damn phone. You don't need all these cybernetic augmentations. All you need is Twitter and a few choice words. You know, you want power? Go make a sexual assault allegation against somebody in the public eye. True or false? True or false, they're stained forever. Their reputation never recovers. That's power. How should it be wielded? The power to communicate to each other and communicate vast ideas is awesome. Is awesome. But it's not being turned toward the benefit of mankind. You know, this guy with all his super cyber tech, if he weren't fucking psycho, maybe he could use that super cyber tech to build stuff or to fix things instead of destroying. Maybe that would be good if we could align our uses of power with building better stuff for the people who are being hurt by the current system, and align it toward building better pieces of systems instead of tearing down the system that exists because it is corrupt. Like, what about using the power to go and seek out corruption? What about if this guy, you know, were a superhero, for example? What if this guy, instead of destroying everything around him, walked around these streets where nobody cares if you're violent anyway and just stopped acts of violence? Wouldn't that be fucking interesting? Maybe Nathan Martinez can be that. Maybe he can meet some other people who are that. Maybe together they can cause some change. That would be really cool. That would be where I'd take this story and hope that it goes. The techno-destructo shit is insane. The imagery, shadows, blood splatters. Fuck. Pachow. Just a half a person. Guts go flying. Gorgeous. Sorry, I ran out of disk space there. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I was just saying that all the stuff is really cool. We get to see the spine thing, and we show the internals, and that sets us up for all the times when the kid that's fighting him goes whoop and gets his like cyber powers going or whatnot. And we get this freeze speed thing where he just starts to drift into afterimage, which is a rad concept. And they colored them differently so you can see the transition, which is a rad concept. It's also, it reminds me so much of like of JoJo's where Wamu pops out and like goes through all the Nazis in super slow-mo and just binds them all together. It's like that to me. And he just so casually reloads the thing. It's rad, right? We think this guy's cool as fuck because he's got a lot of power. But he is a bad guy. He's a problem. But we know that the cops are bad too, so... And they say that they've got this cyber tech augment stuff as well. They fry him down, eventually shoot him down, and capture his ass. And David Martinez is experiencing it. So this is pretty cool. There's the ability to see from somebody else's perspective, and he identifies with that person who's fighting against the system. And he thinks it's cool, right? And you know, these VR game things, or VR BDs or whatever they're calling them, these are a pretty cool idea, and they're mostly, it seems, used for sex, because that's what VR is mostly used for and what humans will continue to mostly use it for. I love the idea of the, like, self-masturbators. They're just, like, cum fuckers, because we're moving toward that, and that's real shit, you know? You can find many, many men sitting, letting a thing jerk them off all day. Like, all day. Like, all day. In the real world right now. Horrifying. Horrifying to me. Fine by me. Like, whatever, man. I don't care. Fuck a sex doll. Fuck a robot. I don't give a shit, but, man, you're wasting your life, right? It's just such a waste. Pursuing these easily manipulable dopaminergic reward systems inside your brain over and over and over. So he goes through it and pops out. I can't put that up because it's pornography. And good for it. And he comes out of that circumstance looking like this. Welcome to ya boy. Ya boy is in a frame. Ya boy is condensed, and ya boy is like, because he's overloaded by stimulation and overloaded by authority and structures, and the world sucks and it's boring and all these different things. And the only thing that steps him out of his weird frame is insufficient funds notices, because everything costs money, because they live in a hyper-exploitative, ultra-privatized capitalist system that has moved away from any liberal principles of democratic welfare. Functionally. That's the issue. And that's the issue that we have in the real world. We have a capitalist system. It works great at generating wealth for people. For people. It also, like every system, follows a principle of distribution where one portion accumulates more of the wealth than other portions. And that's normal. It's not great for everybody, but it is normal, and it's not something that we can or should necessarily fight. What we can fight is that the people at the bottom have nothing. And that's not correct. You should not be in a system where you cannot survive. You should not live in a system where you have to work 2 jobs to support yourself. You should not live in a system where a single mother has to work herself to the bone and doesn't have enough money to send a child to school. You shouldn't have to live in that world. So how do we fix that? Well, maybe we make a bunch of the things that are important for life free. And maybe we have the resources to do that. Certainly this cyber utopia should, but they don't. Why? Greed. Pure and simple. Greed and corruption. And so we need laws that eliminate the greed and corruption. The wealth generation of the capitalist system is second to none. The wealth inequality creation of the capitalist system is exactly like all the rest, but it's really good at generating wealth, so it produces more of that inequality. And so we've got to figure out a way to let the people at the bottom have enough so that they can start to climb. Because the American dream of climbing to the top of whatever hierarchy you're within and gaining some freedom and some ability and some peace and some control over your life is a good and real dream. But it doesn't work when you start with nothing and you can't even buy food. Because if you can't even buy food or pay for shelter, you can't work. You can't contribute. You can't think. Your entire brain, your entire mentality, your entire being is overtaken completely by survival. And I've been there, and I know it. I've talked about this before, but before I made this channel, I was right on the verge of starvation. Really close. And some ideas started coming into my head that weren't mine. ideas that were my hungry animal. And those were sinister ideas. First off, ideas like the world is unfair and I don't have power over it. That's an idea. But also ideas like I wonder if my neighbor has any cans of food that I could go and break into his house and steal. I think of myself as a relatively moral person. I'm not when I'm hungry. So there's a question, oh, the poor are so immoral and poor go, it's their own fault because that's why they do the crime. They do the crime because they're criminal. They're poor because they're criminals. No. No, people are poor because they don't have enough resources. The bare necessity resources. And people are criminals because they don't have the bare necessity of resources. And because they live in a system that feels fundamentally corrupt and feels like it needs to be destroyed. And so they become destructive or rapacious and takey and greedy. And that fuels the greed because as soon as one of those people who comes out of that system starts to make it, they go straight to the top and they forget about all the people around them. In large part, you see it a lot with young artists, young musicians who come from poor areas. Immediately, it's all the trappings of wealth that they spend their money on. Fucking chains, right? How about some sandwiches? How about buying some fucking sandwiches, man? Spend $1 million on a chain? How many sandwiches could you buy and hand out? But the cycle makes sense. The system is fucked. But is it interminably fucked? Does it need to be burned to the ground? Or can you figure out a way to alter yourself so that you can start to alter the world that you live in? I hope so. But I also think that it has to change, the whole system has to change too, because you can't alter yourself to be a functional part of the system if you have no stability. If you have no stability, if you have no idea where your next meal is coming from, you're not going to be thinking about how to solve climate change. And we need more people thinking about how to solve climate change. If you're struggling to make ends meet to send your kid to school, you're not thinking about how best to interact with and educate your kid. And we need more parents interacting with and educating with their kids. If you're spending all your time thinking about where your next meal is going to come from, or whether you're going to have a roof over your head next week because your landlord might kick you out, or whether you can even get your damn clothes out of the laundry machine because it locks them in to hold you hostage or whatever it does, then there's little that you're going to be able to do to actually think about the way that the society works and how it could be changed for the better. Even though you might be, having experienced its difficulties, you might be the best person to come in and cause some change in that society. You might know the answer, but you're never going to be able to share it because you're stuck working 4 jobs or some bullshit to barely make it by, and you're not saving anything, and there's no future that you can see, and your kid is dropping out of school and falling apart because, well, you don't know why, but it's because his home life is crushed, and because he keeps cutting corners because he sees that you're miserable, and he's trying to sacrifice himself for you, and so you guys are gifts of the Magi-ing, sacrificing the thing that the other cares about, for the other, right? David cares about his mom's well-being. She cares about him going to school. He's sacrificing his going to school and hurting her well-being, and she's hurting her well-being to get him to go to school. They're both destroying themselves for things that the other person doesn't fundamentally value. Bonkers. So there she is. And we show her face here, and we show her face a little bit in the car, but mostly he doesn't even look at her. It's too hard. That's how I'm reading it. I think he's ashamed to look at her because he thinks he burdens her. And let's be honest, while she willingly and lovingly takes on that burden, he does burden her, and he knows it. I mentioned that David is a good analogy for my roommate in college. My roommate, 6-foot-ish Korean dude, great guy. When we talked, we had some stuff to iron out about the way that we viewed family, because he was there having had a split family. He was there to get a good job so that he could make sure that his mom was protected. That was his primary motivation. Like mama's boy who's going to go back and save his mom. That was his motivation. And he sacrificed a ton of things about his own life in order to ensure that she could do better. He worked hard throughout school. He worked hard in jobs in school so that she wouldn't have to pay for it, right? He did all of these things for her. And so I see David Martinez in him, and I see him in David Martinez, and I think this is deeply accurate. Well, I think it's especially deeply accurate given that the number of nuclear families that stays together is way down. The divorce rate is way up. The number of single mothers living with parents is way up. So I think a lot of those mothers and single fathers and single parents in general, or split parent families, are struggling because, well, it costs a lot to own a home or rent a home or an apartment. It costs a lot, and it's way easier to share that between two incomes fundamentally. And that's better probably for a lot of people. And it costs way more to own two separate homes or rent two separate homes. So you get a lot of single parents who just are working themselves to the bone to pay barely enough food. And it's not usually the highest quality food. It's mac and cheese and chicken nuggets to get their children to just barely survive. And that's fucked. Fucked. And it makes fucked kids who go and make fucked parents who go and make fucked kids. And fucked people make a fucked system. Because the system starts at the bottom. It starts with you, and with me, and with David. Light and hope. An argument. A hard line by the update, right? Very much a perfect parallel, and they give her this Hispanic accent because she's Hispanic, and there's a reason for that. I live in a largely Hispanic community. Half of the people that I live with are Hispanic. The people across the street, there are like 9 people living in the house over there, and they're all a Hispanic family, and they're wonderful. I live in the space where the racism around Hispanic immigrants is real. In liberal California, people are deeply racist against Hispanic immigrants. And most of the Hispanic immigrants, the older immigrants that I've met, are the hardest working, most self-sacrificing, most dedicated people that I've ever met. And they work their asses off for their fucking kids. So to me, this is a real story. To me, this is the story of my neighbors. To me, this is the story of my roommate and his mom who lives here, who was a single mom and struggled to raise him and worked 3 jobs at a time to raise him. And did the damned best that she could. And she did great. But he's still... Because of something very similar to this circumstance, he's missing some pieces. Because spending 3 jobs just to survive meant that their family never really thrived. And families should thrive. And it would be great if more did. And it would be great if more did before they lose each other. And they all die and they fall apart and the mother is gone. It'd be great. It would be great. Cyber Psycho dead, Cyberware missing. And we see, you're on the news. You're on TV, Nova. I don't know what Nova means. But we see... She's putting it together. I don't know what Nova means. I'll bet it means rad or something. Like, super cool. Like, that's a Nova explosion of awesomeness. Love you, mijo, mi hijo, my child. And we get that call. And we see, wrapped up inside her... Yeah, wrapped up inside her coat, she stole the wetware. Why? Well, her telling him that the paycheck was coming in, I think was a lie. She was gonna pawn it. Gifts of the Magi again, right? Fuck, that's so good. So we see the state of affairs. It's bad. I mean, this is just so simple, right? All we're just doing showing the state of affairs. This is the same scene as the scene where Ryuko walks through Kill la Kill, and you get all these gangsters and people in back alleys and like and destroyed homeless folks. This is the underworld. This is the world. This is the fundamental of the world that the people in the skyscrapers don't see. And David is in this space. He lives in it. It's normal to him. And he climbs out of it only to fall deeper into it. Bam. Straight into the garbage. And up it towers above him. There's blinding, beautiful light at the top, but it's very far away, and it's not for you with your feet on the ground, bud. Come out into it, and that light is painful. Let me see. People just fucking. Losing themselves in pleasure. Exactly the way that people do. Exactly the way that people do. Exactly the way that a lot of you do, or have done. Sorry to be so specific, but how much time do you spend playing video games and jerking off when you know that there are things that you could do in the world if only you were aligned properly? How much time do you spend getting your dick wonked by a thing that doesn't exist? Too much is the answer. Probably. Sorry. Sorry, but you need to fix that. Got to. Because this isn't happiness. It's pleasure. And it's hell. Take a week off of work and try to just experience all the pleasure that you can in that week. Eat whatever you want. Do whatever drugs you want. Jerk off as much as you want. Fuck as much as you want. Do whatever. Do it for a week. I'll bet you'll last 3 or 4 days before it becomes miserable. We need purpose, man. We don't live like this. And when we do live like this, our society falls apart. And our ability to move forward into the future falls apart. Got pregnant women puking on the street. Onto food vending machines. Beautiful. Beautiful. So Militech and Kairoshi, these are all like game things that are legit. Tales of Trauma Brain Dance. So BDs are brain dances. Got it. Cool. Tales of Trauma Brain Dance. So that must, it looks like a romance sim of trauma reporting, or just like maybe just you get to be inside the viewpoint of a trauma tech and go see bloody horrible things. Awful. We go past and they're shooting rockets up into space. And that's right. That's correct. You're stuck here on this dumb train going to nowhere, stuck in your damn city, but there are people shooting off into the wild beyond, and you're not allowed to even be a part of it. A lot of people feel that way about SpaceX. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? There are problems to solve on the real world. Well, one of the problems to solve on the real world is that we have to get off of it. It's fundamental Carl Sagan get off the rock stuff. Like, we're on a rock, and there's only one rock, and we have nuclear weapons, and they could destroy the rock. We need to get off the rock. But that doesn't help much when you're stuck in the city, getting oppressed, getting beaten down over and over. And you get to look out and see people shooting for the moon. Well, good for them, fuckers. Good for them. How about a sandwich, man? How much did that rocket cost? How many millions of dollars did the rocket cost? How many sandwiches could you buy? How many drug abuse treatment clinics could you buy and pay for? For how long? A couple? Maybe you could make a difference. Maybe you don't care enough to make a difference. Maybe nobody cares enough to make a difference. Maybe the only people who might care enough to make a difference are the ones experiencing the pain at the bottom of the system, and that's why they should be given enough to make a difference. Fundamentals, right? Trauma team goes by. I actually really love how the heat waves manipulate the, like right under the jets. Just noticed it. They manipulate the stuff, and it's like hand-drawn to make that happen. Super rad. Super cool looking. We see this fire going. Destruction, everything's on fire and burning, right? And we see it later, and it's just a burned-out husk. You know, there's a fire here. But he's got his eyes down, staying away from everything, walking past all this bloodshed. He smiles at this moment because he knows what happened there to some extent. And also because it's a mode of change or chaos or something. It's something different. I don't know exactly why he smiles there. The big, beautiful fish that float up above. Ethereal and, like, transcendent beyond. And they tingle at the back of his head. Reflected in him. Like, he's looking up at the stars. He's like wishing for something. He snaps back to reality. And when he's snapped back to reality, somehow, some manifestation of that same light energy turns into this head of hair. And that's this girl with, by the way, the sickest suit. Like, holy shit, the low-slung hips with the little cutouts on the bootius. Girl! I mean, I'm gonna have a waifu now. I kind of hope she's a crazy bitch. Honestly, I kind of hope she's a crazy bitch, and that would be great. I don't know what to expect from this lady, but she's rad as fuck, and I'm down. He sees this glimpse of a potential, of a something, and he goes after it, and it's gone. That seems like the world. You see these glimpses of potential, of beauty, of joy, and then they're just gone. And everything is cold and concrete and dark and awful. Again. The world is mine, with cyber implants, and many people sitting around trying to meditate, finding internal peace. And that's good. Good for them. At least they're not causing destruction. But what about the anti-peace that surrounds them? These people sitting on benches with homeless folks directly behind them. Ignoring. So he fingers these chips, his emptiness, the void where he has not become everything that he could be. The weight of this big system crushes down on him. This must be the, Arasaka Academy. Okay. I mean, I don't even know what this guy is. He just looks clear evil, right? But I don't know. You get all these Borgified suits. And, of course, his special tech. They berate him for being poor. This is classic stuff. It's like, oh, you can't even buy a school uniform? Fucking idiot. And he uses third-party cyber tech to try to get into the system properly, and it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. He took a shortcut, and it destroyed everything again. And taking that shortcut to try to help his mom leads to more pain for his mom. She says specifically, you know, you took a shortcut, and then it cost us 10 times more. It was quite an expense. We must restore the system. And she goes, I'll pay for it. It's like, no, you can't do that. And he's ashamed deeply, of course. I like that this guy has his lamp on his hands. On the posture. Not on the desk or his face or his area. It makes him feel real creepy to me. I like it a lot. It's a great zoom. Well, we could just improve his situation. Just send him to a worse school. For rejects and losers. Wouldn't that be great? You got no idea how bad I stand out. And he's asking. He wants to drop out. Just let me stop doing this hard shit, Mom. This is bullshit. The world's hard anyway. I'm not getting anywhere. Even if I get this degree, I'm never going to be a corporo suit, and I don't want to. I don't want to be a part of this system that causes this conflict. This is how I was. I don't want to be a part of the thing that produces all this suffering. If I subjugate my principles to become a wage slave, effectively, it will kill me, and I'll make bad shit, and I'll cause harm to the people around me. It'll kill me. I had to get out of it. I didn't want to be a part of that system because I knew that the system was corrupt. Now I've got a slightly different perspective on work now because I've realized that work as pain or suffering can be worthwhile if you're subordinating that pain or suffering for a greater principle. For example, I've got a friend who's got a child and he worked his ass off, and it's like, well, why do you do that? You're working your ass off for money that doesn't come into your own pocket. And it's like, well, I have no choice right now. The child matters more. And it's like, yeah, you don't have the ability to take the risks that I took, right? Like if I just stopped working as a computer programmer, which is what I did, and I make YouTube videos with no hope of success, I can do that because the only problem is that I'll starve. And it's like, well, I'll manage that. And if I starve for a month and it doesn't work, then I'll figure something else out and I'll go back to hell, because hell is better than death, probably, maybe. But he doesn't have that option, my friend. And so I see the utility of working for someone else because it works. It's something. It's useful. But it wasn't for me, and it isn't for me. It's for a lot of people, and that's good. That's good. But I need to be more self-directed. I'm more, we talked about Trigger being outside of bounds and this like crazy creative thing, and that's my spirit. I have that spirit. Deeply open, high in big 5 trait openness and creativity and stuff. and low in conscientiousness, which is organization and stuff. I'm working on it. But that's my spirit, and I'm finding the balance between that spirit and the boundaries that I must put on myself, and the restrictions that I must, and rules that I must follow, that I must be subordinate to in order to produce well. But when you're in the wrong kind of system, and everybody's pointing you toward going toward another kind of system that you know is not right for you, as they are for David Martinez, just go to the big school and become a big corporo or corpo suit. Fuck no. Doesn't want to be a cog. Sees the corruption of them. Has nothing but disdain for his classmates who are them. Sees no reason to follow in those footsteps. The only reason is if he were to give up his principles for greed. He refuses. Even though it would help his mom. Maybe. But it wouldn't really, because it's allowing the corruption to continue. And at some point you have to take a stand. But you can't take a stand without power. And you can't take a stand without a reason. And you can't take a real hard stand when there's somebody that you need to protect. And he needed to protect his mom. And now he doesn't. Because he couldn't. And we get her smile and he doesn't look. And suddenly, everything's over. Everything's different. And he finds himself upside down and backward, trapped in a confusing world with the people who are supposed to help her own trauma team, as far as I can tell, popping in and going, well, no health insurance, fuck this guy, and fuck her too. Not a policy member. So, there's an idea. What happens when the ambulances are privatized? Well, it's what happens in the United States. But in the United States, they'll take you to the hospital, and then they'll bill you for it, and they'll destroy your life without a care in order to keep you alive. They'll destroy your life without a care, but at least they'll take you. This is an extension of that, right? Because everything is taken to an extreme in Cyberpunk, and it makes sense. It's not that far off of an extension. But it's pretty close. It's pretty close. There are a lot of people who they'll get a gut wound or something and they'll refuse to be driven to a hospital because they're afraid of the medical bills. And rightly so. But they'll bleed out on the floor instead of going. That's fucked. Maybe ambulances shouldn't be privatized. Maybe healthcare shouldn't be privatized. Maybe those are the sorts of things where the truly like actually liberal democratic principles are that you must support the people with their basic human rights. Rights like healthcare and food and the right to live in a space with shelter. Maybe those basic human rights should be provided for. And maybe they shouldn't be provided for by exploitative corporations whose only real motivation is not to provide help to the people, but to garner more profit for themselves and their shareholders. Because if you think Kaiser Permanente or Blue Shield are altruistic organizations, they might be, but they're not because they are profit-driven, and certain things should not be profit-driven. There are ways to make profit-driven systems where human resources or necessary resources are delegated to specific companies for efficiency purposes. Like, when I pay my electric bill, I pay it to Southern California Edison, and that's a company that has deep ties to the government, but it is a private company, essentially. I think a publicly owned company, that manages a lot of the electrical grid in Southern California and a lot of the gas grid too. That's a private company, but they do a pretty good job of providing relatively fair rates to people all over the place for a basic service that everybody needs. Same with the water company, and same with the garbage companies, and, you know, not with the ISPs, because the laws around ISPs are shit, but the laws around ISPs seem not that much worse, or not, they're better than the ones around healthcare in the United States. So there's some real deal stuff here. And we get to watch it from inside his perspective as they refuse treatment and leave him alone. And as his cross, the symbol of, well, what does Christianity symbolize? It symbolizes sacrifice, the crucifix, the sacrifice of the self, the symbol of things being in balance, and the symbol of of loving thy neighbor, maybe. Something like that. And he's left with this hollow symbol because it doesn't fucking work. He's acting it out. He's being sacrificing, and nobody else is sacrificing themselves for him. So it doesn't work. They take off, and they just leave him here. And we don't even know how he gets there. We just get shit, fuck. And we get here. Zip us those eds. Okay, so send us the money. You've got 3 days. And, she'll be fine, man. No worries. Well, you can understand why everybody wants insurance. We don't even really show his face because he's not really a person for us. And everything falls apart. Until he finds the power. Tries to sell it. Tries to give it away like selling a Goku uniform, like stealing one. You know? Looks into it, discovers that it's maybe worth something. Goes this way, looks up at the possibility again, and doesn't see the girl. Right? He looks up, hoping to see a glimpse of the future. Looks up at the sparkling lights, and they don't tingle at the back of his brain this time. He's lost his ability to see the stars that transcend. The sky beyond these lights is gone and gray. This world is just hemmed in, and he's trapped by these fish that fly above him. He's saddened. Looks down back to reality, looks up to see if the girl is there. And there's no girl, only the laughing faces of the asshole. This whole scene is amazing in terms of visual language and the light and shadow stuff. It's spectacular. That's gorgeous. This is a building on a lot of the Evangelion scenes with stark angular lighting that produces contrast and dynamics. This is a building on that with layers and layers and bits and pieces, and parsing it would, I just don't even know. And it's throughout the whole scene. The framing is excellent. These mooks in the center, in the back, are just super simple, classic mooks. He stands in the light. Martina's in the dark. Closer and closer as they get closer to the idea and closer to conflict. And Martinez, in this scene, begins to take on the coloration scheme of the person in the first frames, of the cyborg guy, right? Just drop out. They both do. And then we get this frame, and I don't even know how to read this one. You're human, but you're trash, and there's nothing that can change that. You're rotting at your core. Just don't spread it to us. And he says, I don't care. Anybody can come to school as long as they pay. Except you, because I hate you. Because you're what? Well, we can put all our reasons on that. Because you're lower class than me. And if you want to, you can say, because you're not my race. You know, you're not integrated with technology. You're not wealthy enough. You're not good enough. You're not from around here, kid. So stay out of my territory. Rah. It's just dickish gatekeeping. We start seeing some angles coming from David. He starts to stand up a little bit. And we get this, huh? Ha 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 ha. And then he talks about the whoring. And he insults his mother. He starts pushing him back. Pa, pa, pa. Not even deigning to fight him like a real fight. And then he shows off. This whole thing is obviously just him showing off his new tech that he's got. And we see that he's full. Right? There's an idea there. David is empty. David is capable of taking in new information and new things. And what he fills those with will matter. This guy is full. He's already, there's no room for new ideas inside him. So he's going to be proud of what he's got and show it all off. It's a great way of demonstrating the technology and the way that it works. Gorgeous color scheme, blue-red, yellow in the background, white. And then into full JoJo's pummel. And it's awesome. It's awesome and it's rad. And it shows us power. Again, somebody with power using it to hold on to power. Seems like power isn't the thing that you want. Maybe the thing that you need is the ability to use power correctly before you get the power. Because this guy has some power and that doesn't make him happy or good. And so we leave David at the bottom of endless hierarchical staircases and triangles, stuck in a box that is trash, a gutter, and a toilet. Because he's trash, he's in the gutter, and he's being flushed down the toilet. That's how he feels. And from there, he comes back and discovers that his mother is dead. No break. No recourse. She's just gone. And it's all so deeply cruel and inhumane that he just shuts down. He just shuts down. He walks past all of it. This street has been cleaned up. Were those bullet holes here before? I don't think so. Yeah, they were. Okay, so wonder what happened here that the street got cleaned up. Of people. They're everywhere. It's empty, empty, empty. Why? Is it because he feels empty? Maybe. But we go through an empty world without people in it, no connections. He tries to sell, can't get it. And then the crushing, the emotional crushing. Crushed, 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 until he has to make a decision. And so he does. Put this fucking thing in me. And we'll see how that goes next time. Thanks so much for watching this first episode of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I hope you've enjoyed this reaction and discussion and thing. I guarantee that I made 50% mistakes and 50% good stuff, and that's totally cool. Come call out the mistakes. Please come call out anything that I missed. And if I said good things and you want to put them in your own words and say them back to me, or like express how they made you feel, or that you have a different interpretation of a thing, please do it in the comments, and I will read some of those comments at the beginning of next week's episode so that we can continue an ongoing dialogue and discussion around what's going on in this show, what you see, what I see. We can all figure out a bigger, better, multi-layered interpretation of the whole damn complicated thing, and that sounds awesome. I will also look into watching it in sub. I'll change back and forth and just go through this episode a little bit and see how I feel about it. And I'll download the good subs, the like V2 subs that people have fan subbed out, or whatever has happened. I'm not super up on it, but apparently there are some better subs now, and I'll look at those and see if I'm okay with that or if I want to stick with the dub all the way through. We'll just determine it as we go. More likely, it is more likely that I will stick with the dub because it makes sense to me to do it that way. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Support the channel on Patreon. Peace.